with the blessings of mine, I wish all of you very good evening. We are going to begin today's Sutta study class with such wonderful thoughts in mind. Let me welcome you all to this Sutta study class. Today is February 19th, Saturday, 2022, and we would be having this Sutta discussion for 1 hour and 15 minutes. At 9:15, I have to stop the class because there is another program at 9:30. So we try our best to understand the Dhamma with the topics we selected for today during this 1 hour and 15 minutes. And I really appreciate your contribution, concern, and also Dhamma explanation along with questions during this 1 hour and 15 minutes. That help everyone to understand the Dhamma in numerous ways. Let me begin the Sutta discussion class by paying homage to the Buddha by reciting the three refuges, Namo Tassa in Pali and also in English. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dhamma friends, it's a great pleasure to be with you tonight with this Sutta study class. The Sutta we have been covering is Nibbedika Sutta. As you know, it is a sutta which explains 6 main Dhamma elements in details. Today, we select the 4th one of the 6 factors, that is Asava. So, the discussion would be about Asava, and we are going to focus the parts that the Nibbedika Sutta explained about Asava. In addition, we would be discussing Sabbasa Sutta and other suttas that talks about Asava. Before me moving forward, I appreciate Dr. Pial's contribution for the Sutta study class. He has collected those suttas about Asava, as the Buddha explained, so that it would be very easy for all of us to refer to those references as he mentioned in the email. I think you had time to read those lines he quoted. And if you wanted to go to discourses, there are links of those discourses, basically English translation by Bhikkhu Bodhi and Bhikkhu Tanisaro. I think that is a great asset for all of us. With that appreciation, we encourage everyone to do the same thing, because when you look at the Dhamma from different angle, you need those discourses, not only one, but different discourses in each Nikaya. So friends, Asava. What do you understand by this word is important. The word Asava comes into our mind with the Buddha's attainment to full enlightenment. Everybody knows the fact that he understood the whole truth. If we mention what he was understanding at the time he attained to enlightenment, from Satchaka Sutta, from Arya Pariyesana Sutta, and some other suttas, it says that he understood he got the knowledge about his own past lives, that is called Pubbe Nivasanusati Jnana, and then he was able to understand the history of each and every living being. If we it does not mean that he was checking everyone's past in this universe, but he had that skill and he completed it. And that is Chutupapata Jnana. And the last knowledge of 3 is really significant for us, and it is related to Asava, Asavakya Jnana. So having seen his past and also other living beings, he came to a very final conclusion that every one of us went on samsara with many lives because of ignorance, because of craving, because of attachment, and whatever word you use, it's fine. Basically, because of asava. So avidya is ignorance is also asava. We are going to discuss that. So he then had enough power in his mind to decide to end the asava. So that's why that knowledge was there for him, and therefore he destroyed asava. Once he destroyed asava completely, that was the moment he attained to full enlightenment. He was on the way to attain full enlightenment when he achieved the previous 2 knowledges, but that was completed when he attained to full when he attained to that knowledge, asavakaya. Asava and kaya means complete destruction. So that is the first time we heard about asava if we chronologically take the discourses. And then we found Bhavasava Sutta. By its name, it talks about all kinds of Vasavas and also the method to eliminate Aaswas. So that is a complete discourse. In addition to that, we find different discourses in Samyutta Nikaya and also Anguttara Nikaya, and even in Khuddaka Nikaya, we found different sources where the Buddha talks about Asava and whole teaching, namely the 37 factors of enlightenment are there for all disciples to practice and end asava. So therefore, this is something we all should know. If we want to attain enlightenment, this is one. This is the major defilements. We should work asava. Let's read the Nibbedika Sutta just to get an understanding how we need to understand asava, and then go into details. The English, there are some English words that are being used for asava, because the Pali word asava is significant and it tells the real meaning. But when it comes to this word, I do not know whether they bring the real meaning. Bhikkhu mostly use fermentation, and then taint is used by Bhikkhu Bodhi, and there are other words I found. So anyway, asava, the very word asava, Pali word, has been an English term now, so that we could use asava for in English for this particular defilement without any problem. Fermentation or taint should be, or asava should be known according to Nibbedika Sutta. That is the first thing we should do. And then the cause by which asava come into play, that's the second thing. What is the cause for asava? And then the diversity of asava, and then the results of asava, and the cessation of asava, the fifth one. And the last one, the sixth one, is path of practice for the cessation of asava. So let's go to details. So we categorize the asava section into 6 as before. And then the first one, what is asava? There are 3 kinds of asava, or fermentation or taints. The kama asava, the taint of sensuality. Then the taint of existence, bhavasava. And the third one is fermentation or taints of ignorance, avijjasava. We sometimes find dittas also that is not in the primary discourses. It is been in commentarial works, ditta asava. With that, if we consider asava, there would be 4. But these are the 3 main asavas that the Buddha destroyed at his enlightenment, and all the arahants, whether they are bhikkhus or bhikkhunis, they destroy these 3 asavas when they attain to enlightenment. And if we attain to enlightenment today or tomorrow, the same thing could be done. So these are the 3 enemies: kamasava, bhavasava, avijjasava. When we dive into this term, a lot of people struggle in understanding what this means, especially with bhavasava and so forth. As mentioned in that email sent by Dr. Pial, you can listen to Bhikkhu Bodhi's Dhamma talk. Sometime you have heard about it, about asava. So if you listen to it, you got a lot of definitions for asava and also easy ways to understand asava. So very word asava means a type of defilement that flows into our mind. Asava, asrava. In the Sinhala word mixed with Sanskrit is called asrava. Asrava. There is another Sinhala word that goes in line with this, srava. That's mean kind of honey, honey and oil. They are not just like water flows quickly when we pour them into sharp flow. It slowly flows down. That what we call is srava. And when a person dies, and if he didn't do any anything to dead body, after 2-3 days, those things come out of the body, and they all straw away from eyes and nose and the mouth. So the point I want to make it that Sravaya and Asrava in our language, in Sinhala language, are going close by, so that those who do not know Pali even understand what Sravaya means. They are flowing. When it comes to this, the defilements, Asrava, they are flowing into our mind from outside sources. For that, we should have sources in our mind as well. Due to greed, hatred, and ignorance, we have a sense of our mind to catch those external things, and our mind drag them in through sensory experiences. That's how asava is being built, created. At the same time, those sakkaya ditthi, vicikiccha, and all kinds of defiled state are there in mind, so that asava could be created with the sensory experiences. It does mean that if we do not have root causes of suffering called lobha, dosa, moha in our mind, and other defiled state related to lobha, dosa, moha, there is no way for asava to create through sensory experience. So if you look at Sabbaso Sutta, it simply means that you can avoid some asava with the usual pattern you practice the Dhamma, by avoiding, by using, by restraining. It seems that they are easier to stop some asavas. But when it comes to the deep Dhamma with practice, there are levels of asava that need so much effort, because they are lying they are lying under our mind, and it could not be easily judged and investigated, because when avijjasava, is one of the dangerous and most powerful asava, which is not easy to understand. People understand avijja by its definition, definitely. Not knowing the suffering as it is, then not knowing the causes of suffering and the path and the cessation. We might say that because they are in the suttas. But when it comes to practical aspect, knowing ignorance is not that easy because it is working in a hidden way, and it is easy. It's not easy to understand. So some asavas, some level of asavas could be identified when a person achieves samadhi and perfect mind, so that they can see them. There is no yet guarantee that they could pull them out, but that is the mentality or state of mind we could see those asavas. But when we look at the Sabhasava Sutta, we can see some implication that some asavas could be understood and eliminated in some effort. But that is not the whole truth. We have to work on some asavas with rigorous practice. So kamasava, bhavasava, avijjasava. Kamasava, bhavasava, avijjasava. These are the three asavas, and simple definition for all types of asavas is they are the defiled states that is created based on outside things. And when the person is ignorant, when the person is unmindful, when inappropriate attention is working in us, asavas could be developed based on sources in our mind for those defiled state, and more those opportunities are there for the persons to develop asavas. As you are so wise now with defiled state as well as wholesome state, you can understand that now how asavas could be eliminated, how asavas could be stopped. We can stop the flow of the asava into our mind by way of restraining, by way of seeing, by way of avoiding, by way of association, by way of cultivation, by way of tolerating, and so forth. We go into details of the ways of stopping asavas later on, but now you know what asavas is. Okay. So since this subject is too deep, you can ask any question even now about the asava, definition of asava, if you have any questions, because we just want to understand every bit of Dhamma related to asava or any other factor, so your question doesn't disturb for the flow of sutta discussion. Since you are getting ready, if you have any question, I would go to the second section of Nibbedika Sutta about asava. That is the cause by which asava come into play. What is the cause for asava? Here it is said ignorance is the cause by which asava come into play. Because of ignorance, asava come into play. Ignorance is the master of all kinds of defilement. In Dhammapada, there is a verse, I cannot remember in which Vagga it is. I simply remember some lines of the verse. Matarang pitarang hatva rajanu dvecha kattiye. Matarang pitarang hatva rajanu. The simple meaning of this is that ignorance and craving work as the mother and the father. The father and then the father and mother come together and associate as it is, the baby is going to born. Then when the baby is born, the mother and mother gives milk and the father provides food and other important things, including security and love for the mother and the baby to grow well. So as time passes, the baby become a young person and young adult, and at the same time, the mother and the father become old. So now, earlier the baby was well taken care of by both parents, mother and the father, with everything. And now the parents are old and they cannot work anymore. Now the baby, earlier it was baby. Now the baby is a full-grown man. He works, and now he's working and taking care of parents. So you can see both sides. Similarly, ignorance and craving come together and make the person called I. So the father is ignorance and the mother is craving, tanha, and meeting of these two creates I, the baby. Once the baby is grown enough, it is the I, the baby, is taking care of ignorance. Earlier, the craving and ignorance come together and feed and created I and feed the I to be like that. And now I has been taking all the responsibilities to feed ignorance and also craving. Do you see how significant this simile? This is not purely from the Buddha. We have made it, and I have heard this from this simile for the first time from Bante Ji from West Virginia, Bhavana Marasi. So it works well. So we do not, want to go on the simile too much, but the Dhamma fact is very important for us. I is now the person called I, myself. Those are the, responsible parties who keeps ignorance. So Asava Asavas are being created by ignorance. Even Kamasava and Bhavasava. What do you mean by Kamasava? Anyway, Kamasava means sensuality. All the time you let your mind embrace what is seen, what is heard, what is tasted, smelled, and touched, and or even thought. They are welcome with the respect, without any penetration, so that you attach to those seeing, hearing, tasting, and so forth. It happens over here in our mind. So when this happens over and over, that is called kamasava, and it is happening because of ignorance. If you have appropriate attention, yoniso manasikara there, which means the application of right understanding, you are not going to create kamasava. You are not going to create desire for those objects that you see and hear and so forth. So ignorance has been covered, has been covering the positive abilities of our mind, so that karma and is created. In this particular sutta, with regard to first factor, karma, karma, sankappa rago purisasa kama, Buddha clearly said that those objects around, those sounds that we hear are not the problem. They are in a way innocent. The problem is the person who takes them in and attached to. So suppose I see a beautiful dog or cat or deer and I like it. I create craving and I want to have it. I want to own it. It's not the problem of the dog. It's the problem of my mind, which is unguarded. Suppose I see a beautiful patra along with shining robes over there, and I'm thinking that I should own this before somebody else take it. So we cannot pinpoint that the beauty of the shining nature of the patra and also robe is wrong, is the problem. It is me who perceive it. is the problem. We understood sanya last week, and also the karma and other factors of the nibbedic. So they are interrelated. So your perception decide what you do with the sensory experiences, and if your perception is thoroughly investigated by yoniso manasikara, dasana bhikkhave asava pahatabba, there we talk about the importance of appropriate attention, wise attention. So if we have it, so you are not going to create karma. So avidya comes into play there just to cover that important elements of wisdom, so that karma is being created. Then if you like karma, if you want more, if you are not satisfied with what you see, you are going to get more, and you are going to get more and more, so that you expect the existence of those karma. That is called Bhavasava. Simply, Bhava means existence. You expect a type of continuation in essence you like, in things you like most. For example, if you watch a documentary that you like very much, you want to see from the beginning, see it from the beginning to the end. And if somebody come and covers your, vision, you don't like it, because your happiness, existence of your happiness is disturbed by. Suppose we all like eating rice and paripu and what else, other important curries every day. You expect to eat them every day. When you go to the dining table, you find something else that you don't like. So what is happening to you? Some aggressive thoughts come in and try to argue with the person who cook. And suppose you expect to drink a very delicious tea with milk, but you get a tea that is not good. So what kind of feeling comes to your mind? Angry mood is always popping up in your mind. So that is because of karma, as well as the existence of what you expect. So if we understand karma and the power as individual concept and relink them, you can understand how strongly related they are together. So karma is desire for anything come from senses, and the existence of those desire is called bhava, and flow of those outside things into your mind, you welcome them and you want to continue them in your perception, so that Bhavasava is there. And ignorance is doing this for us. So ignorance is creating karmas of both karmas and Bhavasava, and ignorance is now flowing into your mind as a defiled state, so that it continues of its growth as well as other two. So therefore, friends, in if you read those sutta quotation, you find that in Ekadhamma Pali, Buddha said that ignorance is the most dangerous and worst of all taints, because it is the father of all defilements, all Aaswas. So that is the cause of Asava. And the third one, what is the diversity of Asava? We are still in the Nibbedika Sutta. There are Asavas that lead to hell. Though there are Asavas that lead us to the animal kingdom, and there are Asavas that lead us to the realm of hungry gods, Petaloka, and there are Asavas that lead us to human existence, human world, and there are Asavas that lead us to Deva world. This is called diversity of fermentation. This is something to discuss, definitely. Suppose we talk about reborn as divine beings and Brahma and also human. So we are already taught by many Dhamma sermons, many Dhamma books, and suttas that you were reborn in those happy places because of merits. Friends, is merits asavas? Indeed, if you it can be, punya and merits could lead us to hear the Dhamma about the danger of Vasava and open our mind into the kusala. That part is always there in punya or merits, but still our merits could be upadivepakka. I just want to remember that statement in Mahachattarisa Sutta when the Buddha talks about mundane samadhi. So he talks about punyabhagya upadivepakka. So the merits we gather or develop or cultivate out of those actions has the potential to give us comfort as a human, as a deity, as a Brahma, even as animals. Some animals have so much pleasure in their life, like dogs, cats, some elephants, and so forth. But some animals do not have. So even if you reborn as an animal or a particular unhappy state, some marriage could work. It is my own opinion. There is no such thing in the teaching. I personally think that some animals have done some marriage. That's why they have those luxurious life. Anyway, just forget about it if you cannot believe it. Punya is helping us to have food, shelter, vehicles, protection, love, association of good people, and so forth. Still, it is taking us from this life to next life, from the next life to next life. So because of a huge volume of merits, we may be wandering in samsara, in happy places. So Buddha said clearly, Aaswas take us into samsara, from this life to next life. So no matter how pleasurable, how unpleasurable the existence you are getting, they are all created by Aaswas. So that here it is said in the diversity of Vasavas, there are Asavas that you take into animal kingdom, hell, and ghost realm, and human existence, divine world, and so forth. So here it is not clear what kind of Asavas you should have, but as a fact, we can say that if Kamasava is working in a subtle way, Bhavasava and Avijjasava are working in a subtle way. But if you do not violate 5 principles and have faith on the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, you are, of course, accumulating so much merit every day. And the count of merit would be full and completed because of those good behaviors. So still you have Kamasava. You like to be at the temple, you like to do meritorious deed. That Asava is working in a subtle way because you desire for meritorious deed. You desire to be like that. Because Bhavasava is working well. Suppose you have stuff, killing living beings, stealing, misconduct. You are not telling lies, but you love, you desire for doing so much merit would be a Kamasava in a subtle way, would be a Bhavasava, because you accept the fact that you exist, I exist, so I am the one who does this meritorious deed. I am the one who did that house. I'm the one who did that temple. I'm the one who helped this monk, that monk. So Bhavasava, Bhavatanha could be working as a 10, as Asava. So friends, this is why Buddha said here that some Asavas are there, creating us different type of existence. Isn't this important for us to understand? When you understand that you should not be anybody with this teaching, it is the way for friends to not to expect any birth. Don't try to be a divine being. Don't try to be a great human being. Don't try to be a Brahma. You should not think to be anyone. You should directly and intentionally think about stopping sansar. It may not be happening depending on your practices. Maybe there may be number of lifetime, but your intention is working not to have it anymore. Your determination is working to stop this cycle. So that is diversity of asava. There are asavas that could produce you as a human or animal or hell being or a ghost or a divine being or any such beings. Now, what is the result of Aaswas? The third one. One who is immersed in ignorance produces a corresponding state of existence on the side of merits and demerits. See, when we talk about the vipaka of Asava, we know that ignorance produces, ignorance help Kamasa and Bhavasava for its for their status, and based on ignorance, we indeed create some moments for us to have results of it, and so that this is called results of fermentation. Once again, I will read that part. One who is immersed in ignorance produces a corresponding state of existence on the side of merits or demerits. So, due to ignorance, you must be accepting the person called I. For example, suppose we are angry. Why do we get angry? Because I defend myself. I defend my view on something. So when my idea is targeted, I try to defend it with anger. So based on ignorance, I have demerits now. Anger is a demerit. So I'm working on that, so that asava, different type of asava is being created again. I am immersed with ignorance, so that anger is there. In other words, suppose I want to do something good, based on ethical conditions. Suppose I want to do something great. I want to make the temple very peaceful place, and I want to make everybody calm and peaceful in the city of Ottawa or Toronto. It is and I do such things by talking to people nicely and so forth. So in a subtle way, I want to be like that. I want to be famous by doing a good kusala karma. So based on ignorance, there is I, and I'm doing something great. So merits and demerits could be developed based with the notion of I. So that is called vipak of asava. Now we come to the cessation of asava. If asava is really bad, is asava is really dangerous like this, we all know the fact that asava should be eliminated. Asava should be taken out from our mind. So as you know, this pattern of each suttas, if you know what creates asava, that is the very thing we need to focus to cease asava. Here it is said, from the cessation of ignorance is the cessation of asava. Just this noble eightfold path is the path for cessation of asava. So it is very clear that ignorance is creating asava, and then if we work much on many times during the day on the Dhamma to identify ignorance and find the avenues ignorance is created, that is the very thing we need to do to stop asava, and the method to end asava is the noble eightfold path. Again, practicing right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood and effort, mindfulness, and concentration. So even speaking truth, pleasant words, and doing actions that are helpful for myself and others is also a way to stop asavas, right? So now when a disciple of the noble one, the Arya Savaka, understand asava in this way, the asava, the cause of asava, diversity of asava, and the vipaka results of asava, and also the cessation of asava, and the path leading to the cessation of asava. When a person knows these 6 things, he is called Arya Savaka, and he is going to have a penetrative wisdom on asava. When one knows the asava in detail in such a way, he can shift himself into a state where he can see everything as it is. In number of discourses in Samyutta Nikaya, when you know asava as it is, you already done your practices to know the Four Noble Truths or the 5 aggregates of clinging, because knowing asava is quite similar to knowing the Four Noble Truths. Knowing asava in this manner is quite similar to knowing the 5 aggregates with their clinging parts. So that is what we have in the Nibbedika Sutta. As I told you, one of the discourses we need to discuss with asava about asava is Sabbasa Sutta. So we go to that sutta in about 5 minutes or so. If you have any concern or questions, you may take time because this need a discussion. Then we can understand many things about asava. Yes, Dr. Pia.
Bante, in Maha Chattarik Sutra, Buddha talks about Sasrava Punya Bhagya. Like, so Sasrava meaning there is Asrava, Sasrava. Yeah. In Asrava is no Asrava, right? The opposite. So Punya Bhagya, you said like these are, I mean, so you can't really categorize Asrava as negative, like they are defilements. I mean, it could be something positive, like for example, to born in a human realm or Deva realm. So Sastra, you're doing a lot of merits, as you say, you're giving a dana, right? You're giving generosity. It's a Sastra, like some kind of a accumulating some kind of form of merit will take you to a better realm. Obviously, the idea is to Kinastra at the end become Arahat. But so the Arahat, because they don't make merit or demerit. In other words, they're kind of neutral because the Astravas are not spontaneously developing in their thoughts, right? So yeah, in a way, Ashrava, I believe in modern terms, I don't know whether it's true. This is my understanding. It's like more like an implicit kind of memories of some experience. Say Kamashravas, you see something beautiful that remains as like a memory. So next time you see something, you always compare because you are tainted by that memory. Say, example, you see a beautiful car. When you see another car, like you always compare your memory, implicit memories kind of pop up and you compare and it defiles the car you are seeing right now. So it kind of influences so with this, because of the ignorance right there. And then the ignorance is no more, we see as the object as it is and seeing this is a perception. This is a Mirunga is like what you call mirage, right? So this is from that feeling. This is a bubble. There is nothing solid. So the person who is like, and I'm not saying it is, I don't know really how they feel, but probably that's how they don't kind of connect the Astravas. Not the memory is completely wiped out. The implicit memories are there, but they don't pop up spontaneously and cloud what you're seeing right now. So you does it make sense? Like
yeah, it makes sense because some asavas are working like friends, and even Dhamma seems like Dhamma elements. It's very difficult to identify sometimes because they are very subtle. I agree with you. into a greater extent, because when we talk about Chitta Visuddhi in Sapta Visuddhi, the commentary explicitly explain that when you try to attain samadhi, your mind might goes to something you did in the past. For example, suppose I meditate. Now I am working on suppose pamojja or piti, rapture, pleasure. So I remember the time I had it first, maybe in a Dhamma sermon, I listened to a year ago. Now, so my in that situation, it is detrimental for my mind to go into the past, though despite that situation, the wholesomeness of that situation. So my mind goes to past experience where I was sitting and where I was listening and what I was listening. So the happiness that I have in my mind at this moment with the samadhi relink with the previous memory, which is a kind of flow of some Aaswas. So in Chitta, Visuddhi, related to samadhi state, it is a detrimental situation for existence of samadhi, keeping the samadhi. And then my mind would be working on something something at present. So the idea of samadhi is to keep the mind over here. That is called the unification of sati and samadhi, and with right effort, with right understanding. But my mind is working and going here and there. For example, I remember the meditation I did here, as well as somebody else meditation over there, and my own experience flow from next moment, and I might create, okay, tomorrow I meditate in the same way. So as you suggest, it is true to me as well that mind flows in neutral flat form from past to present, present to past, and numerous experiences, so that even on merits, even on good things, but it is also because it creates you, identification, I, they, me in my mind. So
except like the anusati, maybe recalling, say buddhanusati, that kind of asava, dhammanusati, or tyaganusati, your own meritorious, it might be useful. Some of those asavas might, maybe about the 6 anusatis, may be helpful in, I mean, it's just the opposite. I'm just trying to look at it in a different way.
Yeah, what you said is right. We have to understand the depth of Asava, definitely. And keeping Asava in mind, we have to turn our mind towards away from Asava. That is the, Anusati Bhavana is taking our mind away from Asava. It's still based on Asava. Sometimes we have to accept the fact that I should attain enlightenment, right? So otherwise, people are discouraged to do. If there is no person who attain enlightenment at the time of attainment to enlightenment, why should we work on this? So we have to accept the fact that merits are important, and anusati and other practices should be done in the intense way, just to take at asava, definitely. But in a subtle way, asava could be created if we do not understand. I just want to add this. If we do not have yoniso manasikara and right understanding on those merits, we would be cultivating something that is helpful for us to go on sansara. Otherwise, if we have right understanding in presence of all these meritorious deeds, definitely they turn into some very powerful practices to kill ourselves, because we have right understanding in the first place to tackle with ourselves, and so you do something to dismantle ourselves there, not to gather them in a hidden way, because ignorance is ignorance is going away always when yoniso manasikara or right understanding come into play. It's just like a flashlight. The right understanding is just like the light. When the switch on, the darkness is gone, so the asava could not be actively participate in any further action. But the possibility is there. If the current is gone, if somebody switch off, that's the moment darkness come again and invaded everything, and nobody can see anything. So, however, if we put right understanding, yoniso manasikara, sati and all these wholesome practices in the right place of mind, always with words and action and even thinking, I think slowly, little by little, asava could not be find any footage in our mind. So yeah, very true. Any idea? Anything you want to say other than this? Somebody has chat. So
yeah, Venerable Sir,
yes.
is it the first time we see really Asava clearly when meditating? It is the Nivarana. Is it Nivarana can be?
Yeah, it's a very good question too. Yes, I just want to make the point here that there are a couple of layers of defilement, I would say. The first layer of defilement is Nivarana. And the layer under that is called Sangyoja. And then we can find Anusaya and Asava also are behind or underneath of those Sangyoja. And Lobha, Dvesa, Moha and Asava and Anusaya, those are some layers exist in together like places, and those Lobha, Dvesa, Moha, Asava, Anusaya feed Sangyojana, and then all the time what exists in our mind as defiled state is Pancha Nivarana, 5 hindrances. So we have Kama Chanda and what do you call Kama Raga, Sakkaya Ditti, and when we go to Anusaya, underlying tendencies, Kama Raga Anusaya, Bhavaraga Anusaya, Avijjana, then we have Kamasava. So in each layers we find major defiled state. So Kamasava, Bhavasava, Avijjasava feed all these things in the layers. So as you said, yes, when we meditate, when we do any type of activities to identify our mind or with kusala or akusala, we find these 5 hindrances, and that is they are the defiled state we should fight with, and they are also, of course. If you let our mind continue to embrace kama chanda, desire for desire for having those sensual pleasures, definitely it is kama along with avijjasava and dittasava also and bhavasava. And if we let our mind fight with everything always, that is also feeding those asavas. So asavas do not come into play by their definition, by their name, but they send their representative, and they are called Nivarana. Actually, Nivarana, 5 hindrances, are representative of or employees of those big defiled state. Right? When we like what we see, we don't call, oh, you have karma. What technically we call it karma chant. And you are angry. You are angry. You have ill will in your mind. We tend to call it we call it ignorance, because the purity of mind is hindered by some defiled state. That is because of asrava, but we call them as hindrances, nivarana, because they cover the purity of mind, brilliant mind, Bhavasava mind. When the Buddha attained to those three knowledges, it is said, Evang samahite chitte mudubhute kammaniye paryodate anangane vigatupaklese, something like that. So the Buddha's pure mind is explained by this. Evang samahite chitte, when his mind is concentrated well with 4 jhanas, his mind is bright, brilliant, pure, imperturbable, and it is inclined into nirvana. When somebody's mind is going away from jhana, suppose you are breaking your jhana due to the power of anything outside, and you listen to and you hear, you remember. So now what is going on? Your mind is covered by those defiled state, and asava is now producing. If asava is pulled out, if asavas are pulled out from our mind, there is no place for hindrances at all. Right? So asavas are deep and lie under our mind, cannot be seen easily. So in order to find 3 asavas, to tie them and kill them, we have to kill the soldiers of asavas. 3 asavas are just like chief of the command, commanding forces, and three main personals of the army. They are surrounded by many persons, hierarchy people in the army, and then soldiers. If we want to catch them, we have to fight frontline with frontline soldiers, and soldiers are equivalent to those 5 hindrances. So that's why we have this Bhavasava Sutta very clearly. You separate your practice into various sections in order to fight with asava. What you said is right. You find hindrances when you try your best to get that samahita chitta, chitta parisuddhi. Then you have to fight with hindrances. It's a form of asava. If ignorance is not there, you are not having kamachanda, you are not having vyapada. Your mind is not restless. If ignorance is there, if ignorance is, your mind is restless. And if you do not have ignorance, your mind is calm. It's inclined into understanding. So ignorance as a asava come into play behind those terms called kamachanda and so forth, and help them. And when you worked on ignorance, for hindrances, you are in samadhi, but still kamasava, bhavasava, avijjasava have not dismantled or destroyed completely. You have taken the right path, and you have gathered spiritual energies to do that. So you have it just like you have come to a hilltop where you can see all these commanders and chiefs. That now you can take the direction. You can see them and you can shoot them. The samadhi is a perfect mentality to pull out asavas, because you see them directly, and then you are, in order to pull out asavas, 3 asavas, one together or one after the other, now you have to deal with sangyojana. Your mind is bound to asava together tight, and you are untying them now. So you work on sakkayaditthi, silabbata paramasa, kamaraga, patiga, and other sangyojanas, so that when you pull out those sangyojanas one after the other, these 3 commanders, chiefs, are shaken. And now actually when you work on five hindrances, they are afraid of something dangerous. They feel that danger because you have learned how to defeat the soldiers. They are guardians. So Sabbasava Sutta is very clear, and I encourage you to read it more and more and keep the ways of destroying Aswas, 7 ways of destroy, dealing with Aswas. Keep them in mind so that you can experience that it, and you can actually bring samadhi into your mind, even by talking, even by walking, even by doing your own work. You can feel your mind is so serene and peaceful. Yeah, that is true. Any other questions? So as I repeatedly said the importance of Sabbasava Sutta, I just want to mention those ways of dealing with Aaswas so that you can read it later. I think you all read in that email the 7 ways, but it is worthwhile to mention. The Asava Bhikkhave Dasava Asava Bhikkhave Dasana Phatava. The Sutta says Sabbasava Sangvara Paryaya. The Buddha said there that I'm going to tell you Sabbasava Sangvara Paryaya. This method of teaching tells us all the ways to deal with Asavas. So the word Sangvara is very important. It means that we are doing well with every type of Asavas. We discipline our mind with Asavas. We try to get rid these Asavas away from us. So the Asava Bhikkhave Dasana Pahatapa. With Yoniso Manasikara, we deal with Asava, and without Yoniso Manasikara, Yoniso Manasikara, we create Asava that have not yet arisen. If we lack of Yoniso Manasikara, appropriate attention, there may be moments that you create Asava which they did not existed before. It means you have opened your mind to Asava always. But suppose you have Asava arisen in your mind and you understood that there are Asavas, there were Asavas. So now you, with Yoniso Manasikara, you take effort to destroy them. You take them out of your mind because you have right understanding or Yoniso Manasikara now. And when you continue to feed Yoniso Manasikara in your mind, future opportunities that Asava could arise could be gone. So with regard to Samma Vayama, if Yoniso Manasikara is present in our mind, you are taking measures to let go of those moments that Asava could arise. And if Asava come into arise and exist in you, you are going to take them away from, and then you have now Asava free mind for the moment. So you try to maintain that type of mind always with your right effort. That is Sammavaya. So Asava Bhikkhave Dasana Phatava. There are many sermons about that. And the Sutta, Sabbasava Sutta tells that you attain to Sotapanna. That is the Sotapanna Magga, because with Yoniso Manasikara working it on and on, you can understand that the wrong practices and rituals as bad as and also Vichikicha, and you are making holes on Sakkaya Ditthi self. We saw that with Yoniso Manasikara applied always, you are destroying some Asavas and attain to Sotapanna. Yes, Piyal, Dr. Piyal.
So, I mean, the Sabbasava Sutta, the first start with the Dasana Pahataba. And Buddha very clearly says, this I'm saying for one who knows and one who sees. What is that? That is Yoniso Manasikara, Ayoniso Manasikara. So in other words, it kind of qualifies at the beginning itself. Yoniswa Manasikara is the key for this, right? You see Asura. So once you, I guess like there are 6, total 7, but the top 6 is more like subduing the Asravas coming in fluxes. Like say, for example, Indriya Sangvara Pahataba. So your like the sensory restraints, or Parivarjana Pahataba, you're removing yourself in certain places and situations that your defilements, the Astravas come in. Right? But eventually the last one is Bhavana at the end. So that's kind of the final path which kind of you destroy all. So like the insight kind of develops, and you see how these things create your own, so maybe the first 6, are they like more like influxes stopping, and the outflows like at the end, just the Bhavana Pahataba kind of completely destroyed, like we become to that level of state of mind like Arahat, Kinashrama?
Yeah, I like that way of exploration because it sounds very, very practical. First thing I want to say is that yes, Buddha said that I tell this kind of things for those people who know about something. And actually, when we say something, the Buddha, according to Buddha's word, one has to understand what suffering and cause of suffering and the path, and something about the noble truth should be known by one in order to work on this. In other words, you must be able to know kusala and akusala and other things that are related to the noble path. Then only the Buddha talk about asava for that particular person. So it means that, as you said, yoniso manasikara should be understood by anyone who wants to take these dhamma elements into his practice. Otherwise, it doesn't work, right? So with regard to the categorization of people, we find this always that Buddha wanted the educated people, wise people, to take this kind of teaching into practice. Yes, your explanation is very important, and I like it because when you look at the dasana pahataba, the emphasis on yoniso manasikara. Then when you look at the other 5 ways of dealing with asavas, you are talking about indriya sangvara and consuming your food and using other prerequisites, and you talk about the right way of dealing with heat and cold and things like that. Then try to avoid unnecessary gathering and animals and so forth. And then when you comes to the 6th one, you are talking about how to deal with your negative emotions. So yeah, what you said is true. First 6 is preparing you to deal with those outside things, right? So if your mind is unguarded, you are going to welcome everything that comes from outside. It is absence of yoniso manasikara. It is not restraining your senses. You then fight with cold and heat and people, and you're using your robes and food and for satisfaction, right? Not for survival. And you have kama vitakka vyapada, you create those vitarka unnecessarily because you are unguarded. You unguard your senses. You do not have yoniso manasikara. So first 6 of the 7 prepare you for a long journey, for an important journey. And when we comes to the last one, bhavana bhikkhave aswa pahatappa, now you have learned something. You have prepared yourself for the last flight. So develop your mind on kusala, that is the 7 factors of enlightenment. So we can clearly see that avoiding side or abandoning side or Sangvara side is with six senses, and cultivation part definitely come in with the last one.
So it's a gradual path. I mean, it's defined, put it in a way methodically, not like just randomly Buddha just say. So it's important, like anything else, like gradual teaching.
Yes, indeed.
Venerable Sir, I have another point to verify. For example, like the first one is Dasanena Sampanna. That means Ditti Visuddhi, like Sotapanna. And gradually from Sotapanna, once you become Sotapanna, the other ones are easier to practice. And ultimately it goes to Bhavana. I looked at it in that manner.
Yes, when you have Dasanena Sampanna, according to Ratana Sutta, when one comes to Dasana Sampanna, it means you have already done with Sakkaya Ditthi, Vicikicca, Silabbata, Paramasa, right? So here in this sutta, it tells that with Yoniso Manasikara, that is the mentality you enter into Dasana Sampadaya. So with Yoniso Manasikara means you have right understanding there. So you investigate what has to be investigated, and at the same time, you have been applying the other six as well into the extent, into the degree of Yoniso Manasikara and right understanding. So we have to take all Dhamma elements here to understand. So when the Dasana is being progressively practiced, we have done Indriya Sangvara into that extent. We have done other ways of avoiding, abandoning Asava, so that you enter into Sotapanna state. So the level you have Indriya Sangvara is into that extent. So we cannot compare the level of Indriya Sangvara of an Arahant to a Sotapanna. All right. So we cannot compare the level of using those food and robes and clothes, and for example a layperson, so we cannot compare that, but into the degree of Dasanena Sampanno, we have developed other ways of abandoning Asava as well, definitely. So with regard to the last one, when one attains to Sotapanna state, he has done some Bodhyanga too. Sati, Dhammavicaya, Viriya, Piti, Passaddhi, Samadhi, Upekka are being developed into the degree of Sotapanna state. So he has done some bhavana too. According to Silavanta Sutta, the Sotapanna and has been taking the 5 aggregates of clinging into investigation, and the person who attained to arahantship also take the same points into his consideration. So so the Sotapanna has done some works on 7 factors of enlightenment. He has mindfulness into that level. Because that's why he does some mistakes, but he understand his mistake immediately. That is because of Sati Indriya he has or she has. And he has Dhamma Vicaya too. He has he knows Savajja, Anavajja, he knows Kusala Akusala. His mind is investigating all these things. That's why he doesn't go far in unwholesomeness. He cannot violate those principles at all, because he has type of Dhamma investigation. And he has Virya too. His Virya is not going backward. And Piti, Passaddhi, Samadhi, they are always active into a certain extent. But depending on the person, it could be different. In Sotapanna, we have categories. Eka Bija, Kolankola, Sattukanta, there are categories. So the one who is in Eka Bija, which means this life he or she attains Sotapanna, definitely he attains to Arahantship next life. That's called Ekabhumi.
Venerable sir, your time is up.
Yes, I must be stopping this class now. Anyway, there are many Dhamma elements we could bring about with this Asava, and the Dhamma elements related to Asava. Anyway, time is a constraint for us because at 9:30 I should begin 2 hours Dhamma discussion with some Sri Lankans in Sri Lanka. So I should get ready for that. I think it is our personal duty to read the discourse and discourses, particularly Sabbāso Sutta, to get more about Asava and listen to Bhikkhu Bodhi's Dhamma discussion and other good Dhamma discussion that explain Asava, and most importantly, try to understand it from your own words, own experience. That works. That makes sense a lot. You can make different own investigation out of that. So don't rely on teachers. Just work on that so that you would be really understanding Asava and work on that. And in this lifetime, there would be an opportunity for you to end all kind of Asava. By saying that, I remain here. And that's the end of the Sutta study class. So we discuss the fourth factor of Nibbedika Sutta, that is Asava. And by paying attention to these wonderful Dhamma elements, may you be well, happy, and peaceful. Any merits we individually develop, together we develop. May they be with divine beings and all relatives and departed relatives. May they also be well, happy, and peaceful. Finally, may you all work on to abandon all asavas and attain nirvana by the power of these merits. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.